Arjun Nimmala has been on an absolute tear in single A ball, and after a rough start to his season, after not really knowing how his development would go for the rest of the year, he has started to turn the corner, and he's been one of the hottest hitters in the Florida Complex League. So we'll break down his dominance and much more on this episode of Jay's Digest. Welcome in everybody to Jay's Digest. I'm your host Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse, and Nick, Arjun Nimmala has been heralded as the next one by the Toronto Blue Jays. We know about his tools, we know how talented he is, but will he be able to put it together? He's described as very raw, he's got fantastic power, and he's someone that the Blue Jays can see manning their shortstop position for a very long time once he does come up to the big leagues. And I hope that's true because he looks really good and he's gotten better and better with each game that has passed him by. But this recent stretch, I don't know if anyone really saw him coming, saw that coming. I don't know if anyone saw that kind of power developing this early for Arjun Nimmala, and I think that's been the most impressive thing of what we've seen from him lately. It's been a tough year for the Blue Jays. There's no doubt about that. But we can look forward to the future and we can look into some pieces that may be the long-term solution for some Blue Jays success. And Arjun Nimmala might be one of those cornerstone guys. And his recent play as of late, even though it is in single A ball, is very encouraging. And he's still one of the youngest players in the Florida Complex League. He's still a guy who doesn't really have a full season of pro ball under his belt. So the strides that he's made have been nothing short of remarkable this year.
Yeah, and in a year where the Jays had a disastrous season at the major league level, at the minor league level as well, given all the injuries, having this bright spot here, along with, of course, the trade deadline is very good. But let's just dive right into it. And Arjun Nimmala, we've been speaking about him for a while, all the way back. I think we had a video around the time he was drafted. And you can see here, Arjun Nimmala has found his sea legs since returning to low A following his stint in the Florida Complex League. And since returning on June 27th, the Jays prospect has hit for a 257, 341, 629 slash line with 9 homers and 18 extra base hits. We were on back a week ago. He went deep again, 12th home run of the year. He's 18 years old and leading the Florida State League in isolated power and a minimum of 200 plate appearances. Like Peter, you mentioned the power, and we'll dive into it. There's a lot more screenshots to show you. He has unlocked somehow, whether that was through his time at the Florida Complex League, through his time with the Jays development system. He's unlocked his power. He still strikes out a lot, but he is a player that if he continues his trajectory, he always was a player that was a prospect, sorry, at a high ceiling. And if he is able to unlock this power, I mean, the sky's the limit for him. And it's super exciting as a Jays fan because he's super young. His ETA is not for a couple more years at the very least, probably 3-ish years from now in 2027. But this is super exciting in a year that's been dominated with negativity surrounding all the injuries in our prospect system.
Yeah, and let me correct myself. He's in low A, not the Florida Complex League. He got sent down for a brief stint because he was struggling, and his OPS was around 500 in his first single A stint with the Dunedin Blue Jays. So he's really starting to figure it out. And yeah, it's the power that stands out. We're not expecting him to be a guy who's going to hit 350 or 400 in the minor leagues right away. Like he's still got a lot of development left. And this is a great step. This just shows what he's capable of. He's only scratching the surface. But the fact that he's able to turn around professional pitching in his first full season and hit it for extra base hits and slug home runs and actually lead the league in isolated power, I think that's the most impressive takeaway here. And he's only 18 years old. He's only going to get better. And yeah, again, he's raw. He still has so much development left, but it's the strides that we've seen and the fact that he plays a premier defensive position as well. We got to see some more strides defensively from him too. Like he's got to get better as a defender and he's got to up his arm strength. But I mean, he has everything at his disposal. He just has to keep working hard, and he's going to get that opportunity in the big leagues sooner rather than later. But I don't know if we've been this hyped up about a position player prospect for the Blue Jays in a very long time because we haven't seen the types of tools that Arjun Nimmala possesses in any other prospect that the Blue Jays have drafted in recent memory. Maybe Austin Martin, but that was pretty short-lived before he was flipped for José Berríos to the Minnesota Twins. So I really think Nimmala can be an impact big leaguer, a star big leaguer at that. And this is just a step in the right direction for him. Seeing the way that he's progressed from game to game, he just keeps getting better every at bat, and he's going to become a more all around hitter as his time in the minor leagues progresses. But this is a really good base to begin from, just the power alone, and seeing how well he's adjusted after a brief stint in the Florida Complex League.
Yeah, and you look at this here. Arjun Nimmala just a couple days ago had another big night on Saturday, getting on base 4 times and hitting his 13th homer of the season. And among U19 players in the minor league baseball system, Nimmala has the second most home runs, only behind Piaz, who has 14 home runs of the Pirates organization. And he's been on an absolute tear, and the MLB has kind of taken notice of it. But Peter, depending on how much they believe in this guy, and obviously it's too early to figure that out yet, this could alter their plans with potentially what they see to do with Bo Bichette going forward. I mean, obviously he has a shortstop, Arjun Nimmala. Bo Bichette is a shortstop. Now, I don't think they're going to make a direct decision based on this young guy, 18-year-old prospect. But at the same time, if they do have people coming up and they've really bolstered their farm system at the position player standpoint, as well as the pitchers as well, I think that Bo Bichette could, I mean, that's obviously a conversation to have another time, but I think it's interesting how it may work with Arjun Nimmala and Bo Bichette. If they decide to keep Bo Bichette on a long-term deal, what they do with Nimmala then becomes a bit more complicated, even though I mean, there's still a chance that he flares out as a prospect, but it makes the Bo Bichette decision a bit more interesting.
Yeah, and I've also heard some talk about Nimala maybe moving to third base as
Exactly.
well because he does have a very good arm. So that's a possibility too. And I don't think the Blue Jays are they said they want to compete in 2025. Arjun Nimala is not going to help you do that. I love him as a prospect, but
Years
he's
away.
nowhere near ready. Yeah, he's nowhere near ready. He's a high schooler and he needs some seasoning in double A and triple A before we even think about calling him up to the major leagues. And still in low A. We got to give him some time here, but I think it won't be long until we see him in Vancouver with the Canadians in high A, and I'm sure he's going to star over there. That's a team desperately needing some star power as well. So, look, I think he's going to be really good, and I don't think that's going to affect how the Blue Jays go about this Bo Bichette situation if they want to be competitive in 2025. Does that affect them maybe giving him an 11-year deal and going all in on him as the shortstop of the future? Maybe, but I don't think it has any direct correlation. I feel like it's going to be one era of the Blue Jays passing the torch to the next era, which is Arjun Nimmala, and I don't think Bo Bichette is going anywhere, at least for next year. And I don't think Arjun Nimmala is even in the back of their minds when discussing a potential extension with Bo. And you can never have too much organizational depth. So if that is a problem down the line, if the Blue Jays do decide to extend Bo and Nimmala comes up during that contract, then I'm sure they'd love to have both on their roster and they'd find a place to put him. Maybe third base, maybe second base, or maybe somewhere else. And I guess they'll go from there. But I think that's a problem for down the line and doesn't affect their decision making right now.
Yeah, definitely not right now. You look at some of the stats here. I mean, crushing it right now. Crushed it in the Florida Complex League. Dunedin A-ball, he's starting to get there as well. And again, he's now 18 years old. His ETA, like you just kind of said, he was drafted obviously only just last year at the 20th pick. His ETA is not for 3 more years in 2027, and he has a lot of tools to be one of the best Blue Jays prospects for years to come. And quite frankly, he's climbing up these rankings very fast on the Toronto Blue Jays pipeline. So that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments. Are you excited for Arjun Nimmala, and what kind of future do you see for him? And you mentioned third base, very possible as well, depending on how the team looks. By the time he comes up, the team is probably going to look vastly different anyway, so it'll be interesting to discuss. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching.